This is Tagore Almeida from the
Yeah.
Untouched Company, and welcome to my podcast, A Pint of Imbecile Wisdom, where I usually talk to everyday people with everyday stories who have great inspirations for the rest of us. Today is different on many levels. So one is that this is the first and the only guest so far that I've had from my previous podcast appearing back in this season of my podcast. I'm privileged to be able to say that I've really have the privilege to be in such close proximities as a friend to my guest today. He is obviously the founder of one of India's most iconic fusion rock bands, Indian Ocean, and he's moved on since then. He's been doing a lot of stuff on his own. But today, I'm going to talk a little bit about him, but I really want to focus, as I said, it's a very different podcast for me. I want to focus on one of his songs, one of his masterpieces called The Depth of the Ocean. When I heard it months ago when I was doing my research, when I first podcasted him, I was immediately attracted to it. The melody is hauntingly addictive. There's something about it. But the complexity threw me out of the zone that I thought I was in. And I had to listen to it a number of times. And over the past few months, it's become one of my top 5 songs. It's up there with Guitaro's The Light of the Spirit. And I've actually find comfort in the melody of that piece. So I thought, and also because I'm taking advantage of my connect with the gentleman, I thought, why not do a podcast and just talk about the song, because there's so much of depth, not only in the technicalities of the song and the music, but the soul and the heart behind it. So Sushmit Sen, welcome back to my podcast. It feels like homecoming.
Thank you so much, Tagore. Thank you so much. And this is the first interview of mine which is going to talk about only just one song. But thank you.
Yeah. So obviously, just as a very quick backdrop to some people who might not have heard from you, especially people from abroad. So Sushmit Sen, as I said, was the founder of this iconic rock fusion band called Indian Ocean. And he's moved on since then. And you've been doing a number of projects like the Iceberg Project and so forth, working with some very talented musicians in India and abroad as well. And what I want to talk to you today is a piece of music called The Depth of the Ocean, as I said in my introduction. So Sushmit, it's a 10.5-minute song. It's instrumental. It's got one main melody flowing through it, but you, typically like all your other songs, you break into different tempos, different rhythms, different melodies for a bit, but you're still teasing us with that same sort of haunting piece of the core melody around the song. Okay, so before we talk about the technicalities, The Depth of the Ocean, to you, what is this song about and how did it come along?
Well, this is one of my first compositions. I had composed it way before I formed Indian Ocean. I formed Indian Ocean in 1990 and I composed this piece, I'm sure, around 84, 85, because I remember playing with Oshim as a duo in first ever performance, kind of a semi-professional performance in 1986. And where there was just, my guitar and his percussion. So that is how it all started. Somehow it never got included in the repertoire of Indian Ocean, but the composition just stayed like that. And after I left Indian Ocean, in fact, I was with Indian Ocean when I came up with a solo album called Depths of the Ocean. So that's how it was. It came out. Yeah.
Okay, so what was the soul, the inspiration behind this? I mean, what was going on in your life? Because you and I talked about the song, but let's not reveal that to the audience yet. But what were you going through What led to this composition?
I would not remember because it's been almost 36, 37 years back that I composed it. But slowly and steadily, there is a particular story that formed in my mind, and which I always tell the audience that this particular song has a story. Although I think all my compositions do tell a story, and yeah, so it has got various different movements, and the story goes like this. It's about, imagine a creature coming out from the depths of the ocean, and you can imagine it as smoke, you can imagine it as something which you can't see but you can feel it, but it comes very slowly. It is enormous. The most beautiful part about this creature, when it is coming with such uh, gigantic proportions, it is not scary to the people. It is not scary to the people. So it comes, and you will see in the composition, it kind of, in the beginning, it kind of rises to a crescendo, and then it drops. It basically settles down in society. And when it settles down in society, what it brings is peace, absolute peace, which people are extremely happy with. So, and then what happens? The rulers and the politicians, they kind of get very insecure, and they start telling the people that this creature is not for you. You should let it go. But the people have loved the peace and the tranquility so much that they shout back at the rulers and the politicians that we do not need you anymore. We are happy without you. So this kind of goes back and forth, and there are some micro incidents, and that you can feel in composition. Maybe parents playing with the children, or mother caressing a child. So that particular micro level of the view of the society also comes out in the composition. But this relentless shouting between the masses and the politicians, that continues. And at the end of the song, the creature basically goes back into the ocean just the way it had come out, almost saying that you people do not deserve this.
See, when you told me this story many months ago, when we were talking about this, my immediate connect was it's a reflection of today's society between, humanity and the political leaders, humanity and the religious leaders who get insecure. It's almost like, what came to my mind, Suspit, was this, the Christians believe in the second coming of Christ. And if Christ came back today, I mean, I feel that he would go through the same sort of story that your creature from the ocean goes, because they comes a Messiah, or the way you want to look at, and like all the other prophets in our world and the Messiahs who came to do good in the world, and at the end of it, it's either us or those who got insecure because of it threatened their power, actually either kill them or send them away or poison us against them. So this, in that one song, I felt such a huge connect between how society is today and how humanity has been and potentially will be also. But it's amazing. But I don't want to get into the technicalities of it. But I like the way you talked about how all of a sudden things change, and because in the around the fifth minute, you kind of just break loose from the whole thing. I think, and you kind of go on a different melody, you go into a different tone, a different zone altogether. But around that, about the seventh minute, you come back haunting us again with the reminder of the core melody. And then you do the same thing, I think, at the ninth minute also, you do something else. But what's great about this song is that the melody stays with you. The core bit of the actual song stays with you. It's hauntingly beautiful, if I may use that terminology.
Thank you.
It's hauntingly beautiful. As I said, I hear myself humming it every now and again, even when I'm not even listening to it, because it's got that effect. And I think, when you told me the story, and now as you shared with our audience, it's a really thought-provoking thought. And I hope that people who listen to this song going forward will always see it as a reflection of ourselves as to what do we do to the goodness that comes in our midst. And that's what I think wraps up that whole song for me. But you said that you composed that song, way before you formed Indian Ocean. But you recently sort of put it out there with some very talented musicians. You had Melanie on the keyboard, and you had this really young guy. Sorry, I can't remember his name, on the drums.
Nandit Desai, yes.
Nandit Desai on drums. Sorry. So it's just the three of you, sort of playing this 10.5 minute odd song, different tempos, complexities. There's not even a single score music sheet in front of anyone. And I know that you personally don't read music, but Melanie, I know, comes from a very classically trained background. And Nandit, I'm not sure of. But how did that happen? How do you get people to play with you for 10.5 minutes, on a song that is so complex?
Well, I would actually say that Depths of the Ocean is one of my least complex songs. A whole lot of other songs are way, way more complex. And what you're talking about, the melody, right from the very beginning of the song, in the composition, what I see is the texture of sounds rather than melodies, because melody comes in the middle of the song. Initially, it is the texture of the sounds of the piano, the guitar, and the drums. It's more of a chord progression, but the melody comes in later on. And that melody also, there are 3-4 different parts of melody. Also, I must talk about the fact that when I first brought out this particular song, which was the title track for my first solo endeavor, out there were vocals. There were vocals, and there were really fantastic other musicians, and the instrumentation was very, very different because there was no piano there. But when Melanie came in with the piano, I do away with the bass because she's doing a lot of stuff on her, lower frequencies. So the whole, what should I say? It has out with a completely different complexion. So, and I love it. And I love it too. And I love both the versions.
Okay. But, the thing is that, as I said, there is a beautiful soul behind the song, but there is also an intellectual sort of intelligence, even though you might not admit that it's one of your most complex, but it is. I mean, it's not everybody's cup of tea to be able to listen and to appreciate the song, But what do you think Melanie and Nandit brought to this version of the song that is currently on YouTube?
Nandit has played the drums initially, when the initial part of the composition where the depiction of this creature coming in this particular earth or society, that particular part, most of the development to the crescendo happens with all three of us slowly building it up. Okay, the tempo does not change, but the overall flavor, it keeps building. So it happens because my strumming starts becoming slightly more heavy towards the end. His playing is very sparse. Nandit's playing initially, but he has to keep on developing it so that we build it for crescendo. Same with Melanie. So initially, you will see that the playing is very soft and it is sparse, but it becomes more and more accentuated towards the end of the first part, which basically makes the creature arrive into the society. And after that, again, it brings in peace. So that peacefulness has to be portrayed by the three of us. So the drums almost comes into just keeping the tempo, and Melanie and I, we continue with the tunes that are there. Uh, so, in a nutshell, both of them have brought in fantastic amount of emotions in this particular track, no doubt about it. And especially the middle part, where you said that I completely changed into something else, where I think it's the micro part of the society that I'm looking at. Out there, because the piano came in, there were certain phases that I could elongate, and Melanie kind of improvised on that. And there are some chord changes, which I enjoyed playing those parts very much. Yes.
But you know what? So here's the thing, that you've already got a song, you've had it for a long time, it had vocals on it, and then you bring these two very talented musicians and say, we're going to redo this song without the vocals and still express the whole emotion behind the message of this song, right? What was their initial reaction to it? Did they want to run away, or did they say like, let's do something else?
No, actually, on the contrary, when we were thinking of doing, working together, especially with Melanie, we were doing Depths of the Ocean in S2E8 Chronicles without Melanie before I met Melanie. So Nandit was a part of two. But Melanie herself had suggested, why don't we pick this particular song up and let's see what we can do with the piano one. So the question of running away did not come up at all.
Okay. No, I think it's. I don't know how much of work went behind it, but synergy between the three of you on that is just incredible. It is absolutely incredible, just the way. And you talked about the starting of the song. I know that Nandit starts like playing with the cymbals a bit, and then Melanie comes in, just introducing us to the tune a bit on the piano, and then the guitar takes over, and obviously takes it.
No, that's not actually true. It is Nandit who's playing on the cymbals, almost trying to make it sound like the waves of the ocean, and then the guitar comes in. And after I play a kind of bass pattern on that, later the piano joins me.
Okay, my apologies. Okay, sorry. So there's the cymbals, the waves, then you come in, introducing us to the melody, and then Melanie comes in and sort of backs it up with what she does.
That's right.
On the piano.
So she's not just backing it up. There's a chord progression that when I used to play it live, what happened, since there was nobody else to play the chord progression, I had to stick to that. But when Melanie came in, when she took on there are 3 cycles of the first part. So when she took on the rhythmic part of it, or rather the chord progression part of it, I could take a solo. So at the end, the third cycle of the first part, where Melanie takes off, and I'm holding the chord pattern.
Okay. So for me, there were 2 points, especially in this song. The first one was at the 5th minute and 30 seconds, when everything just goes very quiet. It goes into a very peaceful kind of space, and it almost moves away from the actual melody or the tune of the actual of the core song. So is that when you were representing peace between mankind and the creature? Am I
No,
right?
I think that is I do not know exactly which part is coming at 5 minutes something, but after the first bit of development and the crescendo happens, after that the piece is depicted. And when the part that you're talking about is, I think, the part when I'm talking about the micro aspect of society, where you see a mother caressing a child, you're talking about children playing, you're talking about a lot of there's a lot of playfulness out there, and there is nothing which talks about the fight that is going on between the politicians and the masses out there. So I think that is the part where I think it is almost playful, and it is beautiful. It is very intimate.
But if that's what you're saying, Sushmit, what's really sad is that part only lasts for about just over a minute and a half, and then it goes back to how the piece was. So why, if you're reflecting such beautiful peace and harmony, why was it for just such a short time in the middle of the song? What happened? What was, as the composer, what happened after that?
As a composer, let me just try and say this: that every composition has to have a beautiful balance. Just because you're liking a particular part, you cannot possibly, take it and make it much larger than that. Only to depict that little bit, but it is very almost uncanny that you decided to have a chat with me on this particular number. Just day before yesterday, a very close friend of mine who's an amazing theatre person, and I can say that he's kind of world famous because he's been doing his directing his plays, and his plays are being directed all over the world, and in England, in the US, and all over the place. These theatre companies have come and asked him to do various things. He, day before yesterday, actually said that he wants to make a film, which will be not either a film or an opera on depths of the ocean.
Wow.
So if the opera actually does take place, if that takes place, all these smaller parts of the composition definitely be elongated.
Okay, but coming back to this thing then, you're saying I know this, but I've listened to it a number of times today, preparation for this. At the 5th minute and 30 seconds, it all breaks into this beautiful thing called peace, and calm and everything. But at the 7th minute and 10 seconds, it goes back. So in your storytelling, this Messiah has come and everything is peaceful. In your mind, Sushmit, why was it so short-lived, and why did it go back to how life was before the calm? I mean, as a composer, as a human being, what was the rationale behind that?
Look, the story has come up much later, and what you're telling me, the full part is for about 2 minutes. 2 minutes, it's not.
It's a minute and a half.
Period, because okay, minute and a half. Nowadays you have songs which are just 2.5 minutes or 3 minutes long. Okay, so minute and a half, a little more than that. I don't think it's that. And if you actually see it properly, it should be more than 2 minutes.
Okay.
It should be more than 2 minutes. But you may be right. You're the second person I know who has come up to me and who has said that I have analyzed your piece second by second. The first one happened in Hyderabad when we were playing there, and this gentleman comes up after the show. Before the show, he came during the sound check, and then he started dissecting Kandisa second by second. This happens here, this happens there, and this happens. And I do not really remember how he had kind of dissected the whole thing, but it was very amusing for me that somebody actually does that. Yeah.
No, but I think, Sushmit, people do that is because there is a connect with the music that you make. There is a huge connect between the music that you make. If someone's sitting down and wants to go and party and listen to lyrics that make no sense, that's all respectable. But when somebody sits down in appreciation of actually a piece of music that doesn't have the vocals to tell a story, but actually lets a soulful connect between the music and themselves happen, that's when somebody would come up and start dissecting it at the level that this gentleman was doing. Because coming back to the depth of the ocean, as I said, it's a 10.5 minute song. At the 8 minute and 30 seconds, again, you go on a different tangent altogether. And it's almost like if I had to leave the room when the song started, and if I had to come back at the 8 minute and 30 seconds, I would think that it's another song playing,
Yeah. You're talking about the part where the fight actually intensifies to push this creature back to go back into the ocean. So that's the part that you're talking about. Yeah.
So how do you? And that's the part which again it only lasts for about, I think, a minute or so, and then you go back to lovely, beautifully close the song and the storytelling, and it actually closes with the same calm at which it originally started. And to me, what I took from that was, come a Messiah, for the good of mankind, and it goes away, and we are back to square one because we just don't have the sensitivity or the intelligence, if I may say, to appreciate the goodness that comes into our lives. And I don't know whether you felt the same way when you were trying to tell this story, but that's what I got out of it.
Yeah, that's absolutely what it is. I mean, our society has to mature. That maturity has not yet come. And that's what I firmly believe. We have to mature as human beings, ourselves, and then as a society. And which it's anybody's guess when it is going to come.
On that point, let me ask you a question then. How important is music in that journey, you think? Or music and other forms of art and literature and intellectual, minds that create pieces of work, be it music, films, theater, paintings. How important is it? Let's stick to music on that question. How important is music for humanity to evolve? I wouldn't say to a higher level, but in fact, I would say to go back to the simplicity of our creation.
I think it completely depends from individual to individual. You cannot possibly make a general statement and talk about that society will improve if good music comes in. There are people who do not like music, people who do not want to be with music. I've met people like that. Okay, so and by and large, although I will say that music does affect people, and if they are identifying with the music that they are listening to, then probably it has a positive effect. But when you hear intense music, you have to be an intense person to be able to feel those intense emotions. There is a lot of frivolous music, and I think 99% of the music that you're hearing nowadays is frivolous. Okay. But there are a few segments of the society who do like to believe that there is depth in our lives. It is not just fun and frolic and frivolous. So they do search for music that can take them to the various depths of different kinds, not just the depths of the ocean.
It's funny because I was watching an interview where Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits said that the songs are so important to him because they are part of people's history. So, music plays a huge part in this journey that we call life. Whether you're going through a breakup or whether, it's a success, it's a road trip, the songs that you listen to in those moments in your life stay with you as the custodians of those memories, because every time you would hear a song, you would immediately remember a part of your life where that song became a part. It becomes like a gift wrap around that experience in your life, whether it was a tragedy or a happy moment or whatever it may be. And I think music, that's why I think plays a huge part in what we do. I mean, there were two tracks, just to sort of change the conversation a bit. There were two tracks in my life that had immediate impact on me. One was a song called "The Lonely Shepherd" by George Zamfir on the pan flutes, and I heard it, and I remember I heard it sometime in the morning when I was probably 12, 13. And by the time I went to bed that night, I had a complete story in my mind just based from that song that I'd heard for the first time. And I heard it. And the second thing was "The Light of the Spirit" by Kitaro. When I heard that song when I was in my early 20s, there was a connect that I just even today do not know what that connect is. But when I listen to that song, it can either get me out of something that I'm, in the dumps, or it can elevate me, or it can even take me down into a very low spot if I want to go there because I want to write something. And I'm not flattering you, but the depth of the ocean has come into that same category for me now. It gives me.
Thank you. I'm honored.
No, it gives me a satisfaction, emotional satisfaction. And I really like all our listeners to be able to listen to this track. I'm going to put this track, the link to it on uh, in the description of this conversation. But with your kind permission, I'm also playing it I'm breaking the norms of my podcast, and I'm not using my normal track, and I'm using this in the background just to bring that reflection out. Yeah. So another thing, Sushmita.
Thank you.
No, come on. I mean, I'm just honored to be able to do this with you. So another thing, Sushmit, what are you working on now? I know that you've been in the recording studio recently. So what can we look forward to coming out from you?
At this point of time, I have been having a chat with Melanie. Firstly, the Sound Company series, which I've done with her and Nandan, I would like to put it on Spotify and various other such platforms. And right now, I do have some compositions which I did work with Melanie. Now, unfortunately, for the last 2 years, I have not been able to meet her or even have had any hope to have met her. And my other musicians, whether it's Nandit, Sudhir, Gayatri, Mark, who all play with me. But now slowly, I think we are starting to do so. I have been meeting up with Sudhir, and we are doing a particular show for a particular segment in Boston on the 14th of August. It's an Indian diaspora. Apart from that, I have been composing certain things, which unfortunately have not been able to go to the studio and record. So there's a song which, and also I'm doing 2 songs, which is going to be, these compositions are not mine. Okay, and this has happened very rarely. So there is one amazing singer from Bangalore. She is a classical singer and also sings a lot of Carnatic folk. Her name is MB Pallavi. You will be able to find her on YouTube the moment you type out that name. She's a beautiful singer, and she had composed a piece long time back, and she approached me if I would be interested in doing the instrumentation for this particular song. And so it's really a beautiful song, and I've done my level best to do it correct. And hopefully within another month's time, you should be able to hear it. Okay, so the instrumentation is completely done by me, and thought process. The lyrics are also very beautiful, so I had to match up the instrumental part to that. The other one is a composition by somebody called Shashwat Chakraborty, who I've known from my childhood. He had formed a band with another 2 people who I also knew, called Niharika. It was a Bengali band, and they used to sing their original numbers. Okay. And he had composed quite a lot of those songs. So one of the songs that remained with me, which I have always liked. So in a conversation, I remember whether I suggested that I would like to do the instrumentation or he suggested. One of the two, but I've kind of almost completed that. That too will be ready probably within another month's time. It should get ready within a few days' time, but when you are working with people who are so far away, and the process is kind of longer. So these two tracks you should be able to hear soon.
But Sushmit, again, I'm so uh, connected with the depth of the ocean, and I'm surprised that you said earlier, and in all our conversations we've been having, you've never said this to me, by the way, and I'm quite upset about it. But there was a version of it with the vocals, and I would have loved to know that, because I was going to ask you a question. Have you ever considered doing a version of the depth of the ocean with vocals? Because maybe it would connect more with a lot more people, and it's completely yours. And as the creator, you have the right to put it out the way you want to. But I would have loved to know what the vocals on this were.
So the vocals did not have any lyrics. Now let me also tell you, you are amongst those few people who do not actually give so much of importance to lyrics. Okay. By and large, you will find that people give a lot of importance to the lyrics, right? And without lyrics, things don't mean anything, right? So, whereas for me, the musical expression comes first. Although there are songs in the world which where the lyrics and the music both are so beautiful, that and the combination is also so amazing and beautiful, that they come together very, very well. Um, Depth of the Ocean, the vocals does not they're not singing any lyrics. The vocals have been used like another instrument.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Have you ever considered then? Sorry.
So I did not know that you have not heard Depth of the Ocean, the original version that got recorded. The original version happened much earlier, about 36, 37 years back. But yeah, when it got first recorded, and my solo individual album was Depths of the Ocean. So I will send you a link.
Please do. Have you also so your anti vocals on this Depth of the Ocean, I can see. Have you ever?
No, I'm not anti vocal.
No, I'm kidding. But I think what would be really nice, because the song is so powerful, I think it truly is a powerful song that contributes to humanity with this message. What would be great is to have a video to complement that song. Get a great video that just has because I think it will connect so well with people who have belief systems, and even atheists, who will be able to connect with this beautiful message that I think this song has. And if I can have a fanboy moment here, I would say I wish that your common friend, by the way, that this common friend who just spoke to you about an opera, I wish he would take it upon himself and do a music video for the Depth of the Ocean. If you haven't thought about it, I'm planting that seed in your mind right now.
Okay, a whole lot of people have actually said that a video will be very good. It has to be a very sensitive filmmaker, and this is definitely there. To be able to make a video out of it, and whether that video will have a storyline or it will be just visuals, all that. And let me tell you, when Abhishek is planning to do this opera, he is planning to get lyrics into it, and he would like to have one of the finest lyricists in the world. He's already named a few. I'm not going to talk about those.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's too much in the initial stage.
Yeah. Well, that's a very positive thing to know that at least Abhishek, which we didn't mention his name now, but let's put it out. So let's put pressure on Abhishek that he's got to do this and make it happen.
He's got many projects in hand. Let him finish these, and then he'll start to work on this. If he finally does this, it will take not less than 3 to 4 years' time for that to happen.
It's still worth waiting for. So the other thing, Sushmit, I wanted to say was then, so with the introduction now in our world that we live in of things like Spotify and YouTube Music and many other platforms. Okay, is it easier for someone like yourself or even somebody new to create their work and put it out there to the world?
Look, I am a technologically challenged, and I understand very, very little of these platforms at this point of time. The Spotify and Amazon and iTunes and iMusic. There are so many different platforms that are there. There are thousands of them. And I really do not know. I've never been good at marketing. Although in my education, I was taught to be a marketing person. That's where I did my management from. Uh, uh, I did my management in that particular subject. And my before I gave up my jobs and stuck to music completely, I was a salesperson or a marketing person. But when it comes to music, I am zero as far as marketing is concerned.
I've said this.
And all I do believe in, all I believe in is that if you create good music, it will finally get picked up. Okay, and people will recognize it. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm concentrating on, and I'm not going to concentrate on something that I know that I'm going to be a complete failure. So
I've said this to you before, Sushmit, and very lovingly and fondly, you're a dinosaur in our midst. But look, it's been great talking to you. I think that this song of yours, The Depth of the Ocean, has made such an impact. I know we could have talked about Intimacy and City Lights and Torrent and the Iceberg Project, and they're all great tracks and they're all great, but the Depth of the Ocean has a very special place in my heart, and that's why I wanted to talk to you just about this one song. And I hope that I've done justice to it. I'm going to put the link to it. I'm going to humbly ask all of our listeners to listen to this track, because it really is a very important contribution, I think, to humanity as we know it today. So thank you for bringing this into our world. Thank you so much. Thank you for bringing it to the world, Sushmit. And I can't wait to hear more of your music. I can't wait to see the opera or the film, and I definitely can't wait to see the music video. So thank you very much for talking to us, and once again, great track, great stuff. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.